isn't that easy. It really, even things with incredible local identities have real complex global provenance.
All right. Well, and we should point out that this is part of a really great package in Bloomberg Markets Magazine. We're going to be talking about it, sort of teeing it up as the stories go through. And not for nothing, the USMCA, USMCA, as Carol likes to call it, it's going to be scheduled to be signed tomorrow. We'll see who gets invited to that ceremony. Maybe we'll talk about Sean Dunn a little bit more as the week goes on. Coming up.
Isn't that so, if you think about it, too, the Mexico-U.S.-Canada trade agreement, I mean, it was just such a fight. And it's oh yeah, we're signing it tomorrow.
Happening. Yeah, it's going to happen. Anyway, coming up, we're going to talk about Apple.
Yes.
Before we get to earnings, we've got to talk about the impact that this virus, the coronavirus, may have on its supply chain.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Tuesday's sharp sell-off on Wall Street may have been overdone. The market has reversed about half of its losses. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 246, the S&P 500 up 36, the Nasdaq Composite up 136. Starbucks, KFC, Pizza Hut, and WeWork are among the companies closing some locations in China to shield employees from the coronavirus outbreak. Companies are telling employees to work from home. Travel to and from China is being restricted. The coronavirus outbreak has taken a bite out of travel demand to China, leading United Airlines to cut its schedule. 24 flights to Beijing, Hong Kong, and Shanghai will be suspended starting Saturday. Some service will continue. Investors are waiting to see what Apple has to say later today about risks from the coronavirus outbreak in China, where many of its products are made. Apple will also offer a new forecast as it reports its quarterly results. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
Melissa from Michigan. I work an extra part-time job serving lunch at my child's school, but I still can't afford to put food on our table.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions. The Bloomberg.
Boredom, fitness enemy number one. So don't just run. Run, run, mix it up, skip, run, skip, run. Give yourself a lift, mix it up, lift, mix it up, run, lift, splash, skip, lift, run. It's crunch time, skip, mix it up, run, mix it at a boxing class. Skip, run, splash, skip, run. Mix it up at Virgin Active and get stronger, fitter, faster. Join now for 12 months and pay nothing until March. T's and C's apply. Run. Mix it up. Mix it. Run.
Mix it. Whatever job you're searching for, you can find it on LinkedIn. First jobs, flexible jobs, keep me out the cold jobs, advertising jobs, accounting jobs, HR, PR, even ER jobs, East London jobs, West London jobs, extra hour in bed jobs, startup jobs, late start jobs, get home in the daylight jobs, banking jobs, building jobs, flexible working on a Friday jobs, or even voiceover jobs, which is how I ended up recording this ad. Search millions of jobs on LinkedIn and find one meant for you.
This is not a cat. This is not a rocket. And this is not a sale. That's right. At Smarty Mobile, we're not having a sale. While others are slashing prices, we're introducing our best ever new plans. Take our new 30-gig data SIM for just £10 a month. With unlimited calls and texts and no speed restrictions, credit checks or contract tying you down, why shop around? New plans, great value. Now that's Smarty. Grab yours today. Search Smarty Mobile. See smarty.co.uk for terms.
Keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded. Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre. so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
Go courtside with the NBA on TuneIn. With the NBA on TuneIn, hear your favorite team and players take on their biggest rivals during the biggest games throughout the year, including regular season showdowns, the 2020 All-Star Game, and the NBA Finals in June, featuring the home and away calls for all 30 teams. Plus, with the NBA on demand, relive the best moments of the season by listening to the past games in their entirety. Listen to the NBA all season long on TuneIn.
Are you curious what others are listening to on TuneIn? Head to the trending section under Browse to see the most popular stations and podcasts among TuneIn listeners right now. Check it out. You might just discover something new for yourself.
I think I just be myself, let it come naturally. I never try to, go outside the box.
Super Bowl 54, the biggest game of the year, is live on TuneIn Premium. Be there when the Kansas City Chiefs, dreaming of their first championship in 50 years, collide with the San Francisco 49ers' quest to bring a sixth Lombardi trophy to the Bay Area. Wherever you are when the ball kicks off Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, listen to every electric moment of Super Bowl 54 with the NFL on TuneIn Premium. Search Premium to upgrade today.
Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
Well, coming up, we're going to talk about Apple. We're going to be talking about Apple a lot over the course of the show.
Understandably so.
The first take is really going to be about how the company's supply chain may be affected by everything that's going on in China.
All right, we'll talk with our Mark Gurman, tech reporter out there in L.A. in just a moment. Let's get back, though, to your top business stories. Take a look at today's rally. Here is Charlie Pell.
Hi, thank you very much. Let us begin with Apple, though. Can't talk about it enough. Right now, we've got Apple shares up 2.7%, trading at $317.30. Apple, a record, by the way, $319.23. And worth pointing out that in the year-to-date column, Apple is a stock that is up by more than 8%. The Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ holding close to highs of the day right now, with the S&P up by 1.2%, up 37 points. We've got the Dow up 0.9%, higher by 256 points. NASDAQ up 135, up by 1.5%. So stocks on track for their biggest advance since October on speculation that global efforts to contain the coronavirus will prevent a major economic fallout. Seema Shah is chief strategist at Principal Global Investors.
I mean, it seems like it's still very early days. You're going to continue to see bad headlines. I mean, we know that for sure. We know that Twitter is a bigger impact than it was in 2003, and I think that's one of the reasons why people are more worried than during SARS. It's because you've got Twitter, that kind of echo chamber has never been greater now.
After earnings, United Technology is advancing 1.9%. 3M is down 5.5%. Harley-Davidson, ticker HOG, it is down 2.8%. Pfizer shares, they are slumping now by just about 5%. The 10-year down 11.30 seconds, yield 1.64%. We've got gold down 0.9%, 15.68 the ounce, and West Texas Intermediate crude up 0.6%, 53.45 a barrel. So again, recapping, the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all advancing. S&P up 38, up 1.2%. I'm Charlie Pelleton. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie, thanks a lot. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week right here on Bloomberg Radio. So let's head out to Los Angeles now. Mark Gurman is there, a tech reporter for Bloomberg. All things Apple. It's a big day. We're excited to spend some time with him ahead of the news, the earnings news, because there's other things we need to be concerned about with Apple. So, Mark, tell us about the supply chain.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to spend some time with you two as well. Coronavirus, it's what everything everyone's talking about. And if any company, just like the trade war the past year or two, is going to be impacted by this, it's Apple, right? They do everything in China. The whole company is run out of China in terms of getting their devices manufactured and shipped around the world. And so the supply chain right now is just bracing for disruption from coronavirus. There doesn't seem to be any possibility that they won't be at least a little bit impacted over this.
But so far, not. But it's hard to imagine how they could not be, right, Mark?
Right. There is going to be impact, but Apple's going to be able to very likely offset it pretty quickly. I spoke to someone at Apple, a long-time supply chain executive there yesterday, and what they told me was special measures were put in place because of incidents like this back in 2011, if you remember the big tsunami and earthquake in Japan. And so what that did is it really disrupted the launch of the iPad 2 back in March 2011. That was a really key product for them, and they had a lot of constraints. They couldn't ship enough of them for several months because this tsunami in Japan hit the company's suppliers so hard. So what they do now is they dual source all major components, not only meaning they have multiple suppliers, but they have multiple suppliers in multiple geographies. So let's say one, supplier in China goes down because of this virus. Well, then they have a backup perhaps in Vietnam or elsewhere that's able to step in. So the impact will be there, but they'll be able to offset it because of these measures they've had in place for several years now.
Well, and Mark, I have to think that companies like Apple, led by Apple in many ways, have been thinking a lot about their supply chain, even outside of exogenous events like this, but even as it relates to trade. I think this is something we've talked to you about before, that companies just have to be so much more thoughtful, as it were, about making sure they're not too concentrated in one country or geography.
Yeah, and, Apple is doing a lot to sort of offset those worries as well. I mean, they have manufacturing facilities for key products all over the world, and they have so much money, right? I mean, let's talk about end-of-world scenario right now where it's just not possible. Not this would ever happen, but I'm sure there's a plan B in place in case, China's completely shut down.
Just goes offline, right?
Right. China just goes offline with $200 billion in cash. You can set up a factory somewhere else.
And it's interesting. I do think, Mark, so often when we think of Apple, we do think of how much production is done in China specifically, right? There's been great stories you're reporting about all the work that's been done, but I do feel it was interesting for you to hear from you about how they have different facilities around the world, and I do wonder if they're increasingly going to diversify that supply chain because of what we've experienced with the U.S.-China trade war over the last couple of years.
Yeah, our understanding is they're doing more outside of China, whether that's Vietnam, whether that's Japan, and those are sort of the immediate Plan B scenarios. But I should say there's probably Plan C, D, and F through the whole alphabet, even as far as going, to the U.S. if they need to, right? Apple has a fiduciary responsibility to get this done, get this thing working, regardless of anything going on in the world. And, optimistically, if any company has those, backup plans, it's for sure Apple.
All right. Well, we have a journalistic responsibility to ask you because we have you on the line, Mark.
Sure.
Tell us about earnings. All eyes there. Investors obviously enthusiastic ahead of the report. What's the key thing you're going to be looking for when the numbers roll out?
The key thing is the performance of iPhone sales. I think a year ago when we were having this conversation, the iPhone sales had cratered to be reduced by 15%. So anything significantly better than a 15% negative is a good thing. I would bet that it's either up 2% or down 2%, something in that 4% window. And I think that's what investors and analysts are looking for as well. And so anything in that range is a good thing for Apple today.
All right, good to know, and we'll keep an eye on that. And certainly, stock often moves on that report. Mark Gurman, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate your reporting, as always. Tech reporter at Bloomberg News from our bureau in LA. I did just want to wrap up because I did see some headlines crossing. This coming from the U.S. Geological Service, a 7.7 magnitude earthquake in Jamaica. The buildings evacuated Miami, their financial district, after this Cuba quake specifically, but it's a pretty big earthquake that we're seeing hitting off of the coast of Jamaica, and it looks like it's also it's actually, I think, hitting between Cuba and Jamaica specifically. So that's pretty significant. It looks like some tsunami waves are possible along the coast. This coming from, it looks like the National Weather Service. So certainly a situation that we're keeping an eye on, and a developing one as well.
Well, especially as a lot of the world is going, including us, is going to be heading to that part of the world, to Miami, the Super Bowl coming up this weekend. And obviously that part of the world has been so affected more recently by hurricanes, big hurricanes. Earthquakes are not something that we've been so worried about, except for in Puerto Rico. That has been an issue of late. So definitely keeping an eye on that for sure. Let's get some world and national headlines. Now, a lot going on today, both domestically and internationally. We're going to turn here in New York to Bob Moon. Hi, Bob.
Jason, as President Trump's lawyers near the end of his impeachment trial defense, Republicans seem to be having trouble agreeing on what to do about the claims of Trump's former national security advisor. John Bolton's forthcoming book reportedly affirms the president did indeed tie military aid for Ukraine to a promise that the country would investigate Trump's top political rival. Rather than call Bolton as a witness, Senator Lindsey Graham suggested today that senators should just read the manuscript in a classified setting.
It makes perfect sense to me. I don't know if it's achievable, but that would be a solution.
Hearing Bolton's story without officially calling him as a witness, the president's lawyers say no way that senators should just ignore the Bolton leak. Bloomberg's Irv Chapman has the latest live from Capitol Hill. Irv.
Bob, there's no reason to impute selfish motives to the president's decisions on Ukraine or any other foreign policy, lawyer Jay Sekulow told the Senate.
This idea that the president, it was said by several of the managers, is only doing these things for himself. Understanding what is going on in the world today as we're here. This president is only doing things for himself while the leaders at the highest level to obtain peace in the Middle East.
Sekulow scoffed at those allegations attributed to John Bolton, adding that even if true, the actions described are not impeachable offenses. Bob?
Irv Chapman live on Capitol Hill. Thank you. A senior Hamas official said today the Islamic militant group rejects all the conspiracies announced by the U.S. and Israel, and that all options are open in responding to the Trump administration's newly unveiled peace plan. The proposal heavily favors Israel. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. Powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Bob Moon.
Why do hedge funds and other alternative managers rely on Pershing for a highly personalized experience? Mark Alderati, a managing director at BNY Mellon's Pershing and head of Prime Services, explains.
In today's fast-paced environment, where the only constants are change and volatility, you need a prime broker who's both steady and agile, focused on supporting your needs so that you can focus on growing your business and producing results. Exceptional client service and advocating for our clients is at the core of what we do. Our award-winning high-touch team is just one of the benefits of working with BNY Mellon. We help alternative investment managers create great experiences for their clients. Whether it's customized financing, securities lending solutions, platform access, or outsourced trading, BNY Mellon's Pershing is a prime broker who's committed to this business and dedicated to meeting your evolving demands.
To learn more about the unique and industry-leading solutions for hedge funds and other alternative managers, visit Pershing.com. Pershing, LLC. Member FINRA, NYSE, SIPC.
Message and data rates may apply. T&C and privacy terms can be found at babbel.com/terms. Please don't text and drive.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then try Babbel for free by texting EXPLORE to 64,000. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just text EXPLORE to 64,000 and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or text EXPLORE to 64,000 and try it for free. Text EXPLORE to 64,000.
Are you interested in a Oh my days, it's storming the charts at 169.
And last over the line, number 169. You're 169 in line to the throne.
The number 169 never screamed going places until now.
Get the Toyota Aygo X-Play for only £169 deposit, then £169 a month with 0% APR representative. Just go. Aygo.
0% APR representative on new sales of Aygo X-Play over 48 months. £169 per month. Customer deposit of £169 when proposed and approved via Access Toyota by 31st of March 2020. £3,311.25p optional final payment. Subject to status to over 18s. Indemnities may be required. Conditions apply. Toyota Financial Services.
Welcome to whatever this is.
Introducing Sky Comedy, the new home of U.S. comedy. We've got a great lineup of brand new shows like Miracle Workers with Steve Buscemi and Daniel Radcliffe, and The Righteous Gemstones with Danny McBride and John Goodman.
Praise be to He.
We've got talk shows straight from the U.S. like The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon.
What are you talking about?
Ballers and Curb Your Enthusiasm are back with new seasons. This is Sky Comedy, the brand new home of U.S. comedy. Funny every damn day.
Treat yourself.
Boredom, fitness enemy number one. So don't just run. Run, run, mix it up, skip, run, skip, run. Give yourself a lift, mix it up, lift, mix it up, run, lift, splash, skip, lift, run. It's crunch time. Skip, mix it up, run, mix it out of boxing class. Skip, run, splash, skip, run. Mix it up at Virgin Active and get stronger, fitter, faster. Join now for 12 months and pay nothing until March. T's and C's apply. Run, mix it up, skip, mix it, run.
Mix it.
Hey, have you heard? The Mayor of London has launched his latest van scrappage scheme to help tackle London's toxic air. Small businesses or sole traders like me with a polluting van could now get £7,000, which you could use to trade up to a Euro 6 vehicle. And you could get an extra £2,500 towards running costs if you go electric. The scheme is now even easier to qualify for, and it's open to any businesses with up to 50 employees, like mine. So, I'm going to search TfL Scrappage to see if I'm eligible and apply. You should do the same. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards at the goal line. It's intercepted.
Listen live as the action unfolds, or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today.
Ah, finally another commercial, said no one ever. Visit tunein.com/premium to upgrade now and get over 45 commercial-free music stations.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
TuneIn remembers the life, the success, the legacy of Kobe Bryant.
Buckle up for Kobe!
5-time NBA champion.
It was my dream to be a Los Angeles Laker.
The Lakers repeat back-to-back titles.
Devoted husband and proud father of 4 daughters.
I love having girls. They're awesome, man.
People are in disbelief that this global and cultural icon could be gone.
Search Remembering Kobe Bryant on TuneIn for podcasts and interviews of the legend, Kobe Bryant.
Breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. The Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ at or near their highs of the day. 282-point jump right now in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, up by 1%. S&P 500 index up 41 at 3285. It is higher now by 1.3%. NASDAQ up by 1.6%. NASDAQ up 145 points. NASDAQ now at 92.84. Stocks climbing the most since October on speculation that efforts to contain the coronavirus will prevent a major economic fallout. We've got the 10-year down 11/30 seconds, yield 1.64%, gold down 0.9%, 15.68 the ounce, and West Texas Intermediate crude up 0.6%, 53.46 a barrel. Brent holding below 60 at 59.47. Brent crude up by 0.3%. After the bell, we will be hearing from Apple. Its shares up now by 2.8%. We will also be hearing from Starbucks. Starbucks higher, little changed, up now by 1 cent. Recapping stocks higher with the S&P 500 index up now by 1.3%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. I'm Carol Massar along with Jason Kelly, and this is Bloomberg Radio.
All right, so Carol, I at least throw around the term existential crisis a lot. But if there is one industry that has been in a state of existential crisis for the past few years, it's hedge funds.
Totally.
Let's be honest.
Exactly.
People getting in and out of the business, converting to family offices, investors breathing down their necks. No one knows it better. Literally no one knows it better than Kathy Burton, hedge fund reporter, wrote the book on the industry. She's got a really great story out, and she's here with us in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker studio, along with Joel Weber. He knows a lot of things, too. He's the editor.
Few compared to Kathy.
Few, exactly. We all pale. So, KB, tell us about what's going on. So, macro funds, they're cool again? They're making some money, at least a little bit?
Well, some of them are making a little bit of money. Others are not.
Yeah.
But there is, for the first time, a bit of hope. There were a handful of funds that were up 10, 20, some almost 30%.
Which is saying something because, I mean, this was the strategy forever in hedge funds, and it has been a bit of a desert for a while.
That's exactly right. It really what started the hedge fund industry.
Like back in the 90s when it was like sort of, very the cool kids
exactly.
who had some secret potion and stuff. This was that strategy, right?
Exactly. I mean, it was the world of George Soros, Paul Tudor Jones,
right.
all the big names.
Yeah, Louis Big. I mean, like these were the guys, these are the guys in your book, right? I mean, who really effectively built the business, built the industry into what it became, and spawned so many folks who wanted to make that kind of money and who copied that strategy. So why did it go wrong? What happened that made it go south for a while?
Well, I think it's a few things. One is that it got more crowded. Back in the days, no one really managed that much money. And also it was before the internet, and so it was easier to go and cozy up to your favorite central banker and find out what was going on. And also there's the whole issue of interest rates. They were declining for decades, and then after the financial crisis, we just hit this flat line, and that makes it a lot harder to make money.
What does it even mean to be macro? I mean, it's a master of the universe kind of thing, but what does it really mean?
It means that I'm going to look anywhere in the world and make a bet on what the macroeconomic outlook is. And I would do that by betting on currencies, betting on interest rates, betting on stock market indices, not necessarily individual stocks, but on the indices, and also on commodities.
So it's like a jack of all trades sort of skill set.
Exactly, but looking at like sort of what's going on in the world.
And right, because you've got to basically have like a take on the world, essentially, and then figure out, I think, how to invest, to your point. And it could be in, the Bund, or it could be in U.S. equities, or it could be in, Latin American derivatives, right? You can
do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so how are they getting back in the action?
Well, some people have said that they need to look a little bit farther out because the rise of quantitative trading, which is another thing that's hurt them a little bit. It used to be you could jump on a trend and ride it when you saw the market switch. And now the quants have come in and they get rid of that move pretty quickly.
Because they can react so quickly, right?
Because they can react so quickly. And if there's something that's out of whack, they can come in immediately. And
does that mean the macro funds, okay, maybe they're having a good moment now, but for them to sustain that's going to be tricky? Because
it is going to be tricky. Some people have said that maybe the only reason they did well this year is because there was a move in interest rates.
Finally, right?
Finally.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Otherwise, people are looking to other places where maybe they spent less time before. Chile, Russia, more emerging markets.
And as you guys have pointed out, not everyone, and even some of the biggest and best known names, are doing great when it comes to macro. Ray Dalio.
Exactly. He's struggled for almost the last 10 years.
And this is basically Bridgewater being the biggest hedge funds in the world.
Exactly. And he says, oh, we're in our range, but that range has been 4% annualized.
What I find interesting, though, Kathy, you say this, and yet more money, new money gets committed to hedge funds, new hedge funds open up. I mean, where are we in that tally? Because even with people questioning the fees and the fee structure and returns being down, I mean, are we still seeing hedge fund assets grow or no?
Yes, they're mostly growing just because if a fund makes a few percent, assets go up. I think we've sort of plateaued as far as money coming in and out, so it's just kind of cruising along.
But creation of new hedge funds continuing, or
a few,
yeah.
but fewer.
Can we also talk about the story that you and I had today? We're going to talk about it with Katya later, but, anytime I can write a story and have a byline with Kathy Burton, I want to talk about it. I mean, and this is also an interesting moment, right? Our worlds colliding, private equity and hedge funds. Sixth Street Partners, which was for a while known as TPG Sixth Street, they're sort of breaking up with TPG, going their separate ways. What does this tell us about sort of the credit hedge fund side of the equation? More opportunity? How do you read it?
Well, I read it actually as people looking more towards going anywhere they possibly can.
Yeah, interesting. Wanting to have a sort of a wider mandate.
Exactly, because I think some credit funds have been having some issues. Mm-hmm. And so if you can do the sort of thing that Sixth Street is doing now and going, buying farmland or doing some of the other deals, I think that's what it means. Although some of those private equity firms have been dying to get into credit.
Right, exactly. I mean, we were pointing out, and this is something, Joel, you and I have talked about a lot over the years. We talk about a lot on this show. You look at what Blackstone's done, with GSO. They have $142 billion under management in credit alone. It's amazing.
How does that compare with Bridgewater?
Bridgewater is 160 total. So
wow,
there you go.
Yeah, knocking on the door. All
so
right.
Can I just say, do hedge funds hate index funds?
Yes.
Because that's a fun part of your story too, right? It's just like, let me just throw it in an index fund, I'll do just fine.
I also, there's one little detail in here that I really love, which is, for some people who have really hit it, like last year, Michael Platt, 50% up, just cash in and closed it, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, might not be able to pull that off forever and, play it while you got it and then remember that it's 2 a.m. and the blackjack table won't stay on forever.
Exactly. Maybe refuse that last drink that they're bringing around to you. All right. Joel Weber, editor of Bloomberg Business Week, and Kathy Burton, hedge fund reporter for Bloomberg, also the author of Hedge Hunters. You want to know about the business? Pick it up.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, just want to mention a couple of headlines here. The Trump lawyers, the lawyers for President Trump, finishing their presentation, their defense in that impeachment trial. So that is wrapping up. And let's just remind everybody, a magnitude 7.7 earthquake hitting the Cuba region. So we're following that as well. All right, you're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. I'm Carol Master along with Jason Kelly. Coming up, check on the day's economic news. A look at the bond market. Don't forget, tomorrow is Fed Day, so we'll see what the Fed has to say about all of this. And you're listening to Bloomberg.
Well, and all the global stuff happening in the world.
Totally.
Business is like a
boredom, fitness enemy number one. So don't just run. Mix it up, skip, run. Give yourself a lift. Mix it up, lift. Mix it up, run, lift, splash, skip, lift, run. It's crunch time. Skip, mix it up, run. Mix it out of boxing class. Skip, run, splash, skip, run. Mix it up at Virgin Active and get stronger, fitter, faster. Join now for 12 months and pay nothing until March. T's and C's apply. Run. Mix it up. Skip. Mix it. Run.
Mix it. Hey, have you heard? The Mayor of London has launched his latest van scrappage scheme to help tackle London's toxic air. Small businesses or sole traders like me with a polluting van could now get £7,000, which you could use to trade up to a Euro 6 vehicle. And you could get an extra £2,500 towards running costs if you go electric. The scheme is now even easier to qualify for, and it's open to any businesses with up to 50 employees, like mine. So, I'm going to search TfL Scrappage to see if I'm eligible and apply. You should do the same. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown to Keenan.
Search NFL today.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip
Follow
Bayless.
and TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet, developing story we're keeping an eye on for you. Workers streaming out of the B of A building in Miami at 701 Brickell Avenue after the USGS reported a magnitude 7.7 earthquake between Cuba and Jamaica. People also evacuating from the Wells Fargo Center in downtown Miami. Again, developing story. Stay with Bloomberg. Bob Moon will have more on the story coming up. The Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ are all advancing, holding close to the best level of the day as we move into the final hour of trading on this Tuesday. Right now, the S&P rebounding 39 points at 3282. It is higher by 1.2%. The Dow up 255 points, up 0.9%. NASDAQ up 142 points, a gain there of 1.6%. We've got the 10-year down 9/32, yield right now 1.63%. Gold down 0.8%, 15.69 the ounce. And West Texas Intermediate crude higher by 0.6%, 53.44 a barrel. We're just under an hour away from the latest numbers out of Apple. This quarter isn't just about the usual metrics involving iPhone sales and services. Investors will also be monitoring the conference call for anything the company executives will have to say about China, specifically any disruptions to its supply chain because of the virus. John Butler is a senior telecom analyst with Bloomberg Intelligence.
It's hard to say what Tim Cook is going to say exactly about the issue, but I do think he does need to address concerns about what they can do and how quickly they can do it if you see factory closures in Zhengzhou or any of the other areas around China where they manufacture Apple products.
And John will be along to break down those numbers once we get them after 4 o'clock Wall Street time. Apple shares, by the way, up by 0.3%. And our Mark Gurman is reporting that Apple's ability to send engineers to China could be constrained by United Airlines' decision to reduce travel there amid a rising death toll from the coronavirus. Again, the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all higher. Gold down 0.8% right now. The S&P up 38, up 1.2%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week with Carol Masser and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
All right, let's do a little Business Week economics now. Kathleen Hayes here with us, Global Economics and Policy Editor for Bloomberg. She's here in our Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio. Carl Riccadonna, Chief U.S. Economist for Bloomberg Economics. We're going to talk a little bit about the Fed tomorrow. But first, Kathleen, I got to ask you, I know you talk to a lot of folks over in Asia. You help helm our Daybreak Asia coverage on Bloomberg TV and radio. What's your read economically about this coronavirus at this point? What are people saying to you? Because you're having more nuanced and interesting conversations than I think a lot of people are about the real impact here.
Well, let me tell you, I do have it on.
You're good.
I'm co-anchoring the 10 o'clock hour of Bloomberg Markets Asia,
And our first guest is someone who's going to talk about the economic impact of what the coronavirus could be. And no one knows, but they know people have to stay home. People are cautious. And in such a short period of time to see markets move, I know stocks have had a big bounce back. I know bonds have sold off and yields are up, but they're nowhere where they were before this whole thing started. And the main driver, I think, is this concern that the virus can boomerang economically depending on how hard it is to contain, how much further it spreads, how much travel it
You're talking globally. You're not just talking China and Asia right now,
But of course, it's obviously going to hit very hard. I mean, if a Japanese bus driver who did nothing but put a bunch of people on his bus can get the virus as people from Wuhan walk by him, you know it's very contagious. And on top of that,
but I was asking you, you're thinking global impact at this point,
yes,
right?
But I think the immediate impact on China,
right,
Japan, potentially, it's big. Potentially. We don't know how big it's going to be, but we know it's going to create uncertainty and fear right now. Also, this is a time when the global economy is not all that strong. We just got weak numbers out of Germany. Any country you turn to. In fact, the China PMIs now are expected to be very weak on the heels of this virus. So it's potentially very good for bonds. I mean, it has already been good for bonds in the last week. Yields are so much lower than they were. So it's a surprising, significant deal. I know we're going to talk about the Fed. I can't see any way in which it would influence the Fed.
Right.
They can't ignore it. They'll get
a question on it.
Tons of questions, I would think, at the presser.
So, Carl, how about for you and your team in terms of how you're looking at this virus and the potential for it to at some point impact the U.S. economy? Is it just you can't make those guesses or guesstimates at this point yet? Too early?
Sure. I think it's way too early to look at that. Certainly, if we saw sustained tone in the markets like what we saw yesterday, then that would be reason for concern that this could, not so much the direct impact of the virus spreading, but really the confidence impact in equity markets, if that leads to shutdowns or shuttering of certain parts of the economy and whatnot, absolutely you could see it potentially move the needle, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. So absolutely there's a very serious human toll here in terms of economic consequences. It just doesn't look to be that large aside from some distortions in economic data. And so I hate to draw parallels, but if you try to draw a parallel here, basically shutting down parts of the economy for an extended period is kind of how we treat like a blizzard or a hurricane, that type of natural event, lost industrial production, lost sales, that kind of thing. And for the U.S., that's really negligible at this point. What I would be watching for is some disruptions in the trade data. So we've seen in past years just the fluctuation of Chinese New Year from month to month often can disrupt the trade data, the international trade data. And so if we're talking about extending the holiday, that's just as if there was a typhoon or a snowstorm shutting down the economy for an extended period, and those are lost selling and production days. So I'll kind of be watching the trade data really for one of the first clues.
All right, let's talk Fed. Kathleen, what do you expect to hear, virus notwithstanding, when we hear both the statement, but we're always a little more interested, I feel like, in Chair Powell's, not just his statement, but his reaction to questions, his body language, first meeting of the year. How does he come out of the gate?
Well, first of all, I will be interested to see, will they give any kind of nod to the virus? It's very hard to do that in policy statement because you only have 5 paragraphs. And beyond that, we know that the December dots indicated that 13 of 17 expect no move at all this year. And it doesn't seem that there's any strength going from upside down that would signal that they need to signal anything, or in the other direction. People are saying now that ahead that they want to know, are they going to announce a repo facility finally? Okay, maybe that's on the table. Something about quantitative easing, something that's not going to move markets but is very important. What are you going to do if there's another recession? Right. And beyond that, I do think that the kind of questions that the chair gets about, well, do you think the consumer's holding up? What about investment being weak? What do you think about the coronavirus? Could it ultimately get, what about weakness overseas? Because as our Bloomberg economics team thinks, if there's an unexpected move, that it will, from the next one from the Fed, will be a cut. So I really think that's the kind of thing people are going to be looking for, that tone and tenor from Powell.
Right, and they've got to do it, Carl, relatively soonish, right, in the first half of the year. I mean, I keep hearing from all you guys, what they've got, January, March, April, June. So if they're going to do something by June, they're done.
Well, they really don't want to be moving in close proximity to the election. So that's kind of the 800-pound gorilla in the room that is influencing how they think about things. Right? They'll absolutely move if they have to, right? If the economy was at the cusp of a really troubling stall, then the Fed would swing into action. But as Kathleen noted, we've been discussing that the hurdles are very high for the Fed to move in either direction, but it seems almost impossible for them to be raising rates this year. The economy's not overheating. Inflation pressures are still below target. So if they're moving, it's going to be a cut, but they're going to be very resistant to that type of cut. What we have to remember as we think about exogenous shocks, whether it's coronavirus or oil prices or geopolitics or whatnot, the Fed has its foot on the accelerator. So they see potential headwinds ahead, and so they put the foot on the accelerator. So it's not a neutral stance of Fed policy, right? They have policy set in a snowplow fashion, ready to tackle some challenges that are in the path, right? And if we look at things like trade policy, actually that headwind has diminished. Another headwind or tailwind really that's emerging rather than diminishing headwind is the delayed impact of that 75 basis points of easing last year. So those are actually creating some updrafts in the economy, which will help the economy to withstand things like coronavirus, oil, volatility, and geopolitics.
All right. We're going to have a lot to talk about tomorrow for sure. Carl Riccadonna, Chief U.S. Economist for Bloomberg Economics. Kathleen Hayes, Global Economics and Policy Editor. Catch her tonight on Daybreak Asia. Lots of news. Speaking of news, let's get to Bob Moon. He's got world and national headlines. Hey, Bob.
Jason, a powerful magnitude 7.7 earthquake is struck in the Caribbean, south of Cuba and northwest of Jamaica. The U.S. Geological Survey detected it within the past hour. It was felt in Miami. No word on any damage or injuries. The defense rests in the impeachment trial of President Trump as Democrats keep pressing for witnesses to be called. Bloomberg's Irv Chapman with the latest now, live from Capitol Hill. Irv.
Bob, Deputy White House Counsel Patrick Philbin played video of Democrats assailing the impeachment of Bill Clinton for what they then said was not a high crime or misdemeanor. And he urged the Senate to let the voters judge President Trump.
What they are asking you to do is to throw out a successful president on the eve of an election with no basis and in violation of the Constitution. Why not trust the American people with this decision? Why tear up their ballots?
Philbin and his colleagues insisted that President Trump acted legitimately and in accordance with his prerogatives, not for self-serving motives, but to serve the nation. Tomorrow, senators will submit written questions for both sides. Bob?
Herb Chapman, thank you. The long-awaited Mideast peace plan from President Trump is dead on arrival, with the Palestinian president saying, quote, 1,000 no's, unquote, to a proposal that heavily favors Israel. Trump announced the plan with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at his side, saying certain conditions need to be met before the Palestinians can claim statehood.
We will also work to create a contiguous territory within the future Palestinian state for when the conditions for statehood are met, including the firm rejection of terrorism.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas is already denouncing the plan as nonsense. Global News 24 hours a day. I'm Bob Moon.
A PAC needs someone to follow.
It's got to be important for somebody to have a breakout moment.
Don't look now, but they're behind you.
Imports declined 2.8%.
Bloomberg Daybreak.
Sources tell us that agreement is expected to include commitments on U.S. intellectual property.
With Karen Moscow and Nathan Hager.
Could we see that play into the results and the forward guidance?
Weekday mornings at 5 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg. The world is listening.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting,
a teenager. Learning the lingo.
Jelly. Jelly adjective. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
What if you could keep the top...
Boredom. Fitness enemy number one. So don't just run. 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 Mix it up. Skip. Run. Skip. Run. Give yourself a lift. Mix it up. Lift. Mix it up. Run. Lift. Splash. Skip. Lift. Run. It's crunch time. Skip. Mix it up. Run. Mix it. Add a boxing class. Skip. Run. Splash. Skip. Run. Mix it up at Virgin Active and get stronger, fitter, faster. Join now for 12 months and pay nothing until March. T's and C's apply. Run. Mix it up. Skip. Mix it. Run. Mix it.
Hey, have you heard? The Mayor of London has launched his latest van scrappage scheme to help tackle London's toxic air. Small businesses or sole traders like me with a polluting van could now get £7,000, which you could use to trade up to a Euro 6 vehicle. And you could get an extra £2,500 towards running costs if you go electric. The scheme is now even easier to qualify for, and it's open to any businesses with up to 50 employees, like mine. So, I'm going to search TfL Scrappage to see if I'm eligible and apply. You should do the same. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Whatever job you're searching for, you can find it on LinkedIn. First jobs, flexible jobs, keep me out the cold jobs, advertising jobs, accounting jobs, HR, PR, even ER jobs, East London jobs, West London jobs, extra hour in bed jobs, startup jobs, late start jobs, get home in the day jobs, banking jobs, building jobs, flexible working on a Friday jobs, or even voiceover jobs, which is how I ended up recording this ad. Search millions of jobs on LinkedIn and find one meant for you.
This is not a cat. This is not a rocket. And this is not a sale. That's right. At Smarty Mobile, we're not having a sale. While others are slashing prices, we're introducing our best ever new plans. Take our new 30 gig data SIM for just £10 a month. With unlimited calls and texts and no speed restrictions, credit checks or contract tying you down, why shop around? New plans, great value. Now that's Smarty. Grab yours today. Search Smarty Mobile. See smarty.co.uk for terms.
I used to be a bit of a rubbish sleeper. I'd toss and turn all night. And somehow I could never find the comfy bit of the mattress. It was a proper nightmare. That's what brought me here. Testing mattresses in the Which Test Lab. We use a custom-made barrel rolling machine to simulate a decade's worth of use. And the mattresses that perform best are the only ones we recommend for your bedroom.
Which tests harder so you can buy smarter. Visit which.co.uk.
Ah, finally another commercial, said no one ever. Visit tunein.com/premium to upgrade now and get over 45 commercial-free music stations.
You might already know that TuneIn allows you to listen to all the pro sports leagues wherever you go. But did you know TuneIn is also home to the wide world of college sports?
Open three, DeAndre Hunter got it! Hand off Carruthers, big hole right side. He leaps and he surges in, touchdown!
From live college football, basketball, and baseball games to podcasts and coaches shows fueling your love for the game in your school. And the best part is, it's all free. Search college sports to find your team or league.
I think I just be myself, let it come naturally. I never try to, go outside the box.
Super Bowl 54, the biggest game of the year, is live on TuneIn Premium. Be there when the Kansas City Chiefs, dreaming of their first championship in 50 years, collide with the San Francisco 49ers' quest to bring a sixth Lombardi trophy to the Bay Area. Wherever you are when the ball kicks off Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, listen to every electric moment of Super Bowl 54 with the NFL on TuneIn Premium. Search premium to upgrade today.
News 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. This headline again from the Bloomberg Professional Service. Germany confirming 3 more coronavirus patients. Developing story worth repeating. Germany confirming 3 more coronavirus patients. The Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ off their session highs, but green on the screen. Let's head right over to the First Word breaking news desk for today's afternoon call. Here he is, Bill Maloney.
And good afternoon, Charlie. That's right. U.S. stocks are rebounding today after yesterday's sell-off. Dow's currently up 220 points. S&P's gained 36, while the NASDAQ climbs by 137. The U.S. 10-year yield at 1.64%. Gold trading lower by 12. Small caps rise 8 points, and all of the main 11 S&P sectors are trading higher, led by gains in tech and telecom. Nasdaq Biotechs rise 1.3%. Transports jump 79. Semis gain 2.5%, and the VIX is down by 11%. Leaders to the upside in the Dow, Apple, Intel, and Microsoft, while 3M and Pfizer each fell 5% after earnings and led to the downside. Also after earnings, Whirlpool gained 6%, Xerox climbed 5.7%, and Juniper fell 4%. In deal news, Borg Warner is buying Delphi for $1.5 billion in an auto parts deal. And wrapping things up, some of the names pointing after the bell tonight include AMD, Apple, eBay, and Starbucks. Live from the First Breaking News Desk, I'm Bill Maloney. Charlie.
Okay, we thank you very much, Bill Maloney. We'll be all over those numbers as they break into here. Live breaking news over your Bloomberg. Type Squawk, SQUAWK on your terminal. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Carol Masser, along with my co-host, Jason Kelly, and we are Bloomberg Radio.
They say that breaking up is hard to do.
Oh, my God, you too.
All right. Quick flex. Got a little scoop on the terminal today with Katja Porchikansky. We did not break up. We're very much together.
Who gets the cat? Who gets the couch?
I know.
Who
Seriously.
gets the pillows?
Who gets all the money is really the big question. We're talking about a couple very well-known Wall Street shops. One a pretty established one. One a little newer. TPG on the private equity side. 6th Street, formerly known as TPG 6th Street. They are parting company, ending a 10-year relationship. Katja Porchikansky is here with us in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker studio. All right, so remind us what's going on.
So we have, obviously, the private equity world has expanded into the credit world quite heavily, and TPG had.
Can I quote you back to you? the private equity business has been blobbing.
It's
right?
been blobbing.
Yeah.
So that's my word. And TPG had its
Can I just say I love that reference?
Yeah.
You say it sometimes, people are like, what? No, the blob, right?
Yeah,
it just
the
goes
blobbing.
everywhere.
Blobbing.
and it just consumes everything
Totally.
in its path.
It's perfect.
So TPG kind of had its toe in credit through this minority stake in a company called TPG 6th Street Partners. And that was their presence in the credit world. And basically in the last 10 years, it has grown from $2 billion to $33 billion. It's run by this team from the Goldman Special Situations Group, which was the hotshot team at Goldman and the prop desk that apparently they were the only team that didn't lose money in 2008. And so they're good in credit, they're good in special sits, and now they are breaking out on their own. And TPG is going to keep a stake with them, but they're ending this partnership that kind of had the two firms staying in their lane, if you will. TPG having to stick with private equity and TPG 6th Street Partners staying in credit.
All right, so I'm going to ask both of you since you both wrote the story. So why? Does somebody no longer want to stay in their lane? Is this what this is all about? What's going on?
I got the sense, we talked to some people around this. We got our hands on the letters that they sent to their respective institutional shareholders. The sense I got was they both want to be in wider lanes. Is that what you got too?
Yeah, I think so. I think you have so much money in private credit, or rather in private markets, and a lot of these deals, particularly really complex deals and in special situations deals where equity becomes credit becomes equity. It's how do you say what it is? They're also in funky stuff like agriculture and infrastructure and growth financing. Growth financing can be through debt and through equity. So how do you stay in your lane without missing out on really big opportunities. And I think they both just were like, let's not.
And one example that sort of came up in our reporting was these guys kind of together-ish did a deal for Spotify with Spotify a couple years back. And, you know, you get into these complicated discussions like, well, who sourced the deal? And so who gets the money and who gets paid and who's running it and the investment committees and all of this overlap. And and I think the other contrast that we drew in our reporting was, if you look at Blackstone, you know, they have this huge credit fund, $142 billion, I believe GSO is managing at this point. It's wholly owned. It's part of the company. This was not the case. It was this partnership that was formed at a time when the world was not as complicated or candidly flooded with potential money.
Precisely. And I think as long as you have like this minority share in a company, we were talking, how do you really fully go full throttle? Right. Maybe TPG has bigger ambitions to, you know, become a big player in the space on its own.
Was it a profitable partnership?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, so they
it worked
invested
well, right? It
worked well from a financial perspective in the aggregate. It feels like. I mean, the other notable thing that we found out through our reporting is they're basically going to take a year that's sort of a cooling off period, is how one source described it to us, where basically they're going to kind of stick to their individual knitting, but then all bets are off, and we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah, and Sixth Street Partners will no longer have TPG in its name, and TPG can no longer count Sixth Street Partners as part of its AUM.
So business friends become kind of potentially foes going forward.
Oh, yeah.
Most likely.
Yeah,
Time, right?
I mean, and right now they have and this was in the letters that we got a chance to see, they have some sort of shared back office stuff, but it's more around, it struck me as like they're located in some of the same places. Maybe they share a coffee machine and some benefits. And they're going to start to sort of parse that out in the near term. But it struck us, I think, as a sign of the times to some extent, especially because we pointed out in the story, $1.4 trillion in dry powder in the sort of broadly defined private equity, and growing, a lot more money coming in, and a lot more money coming into credit. You know this better than I do, Katya.
But I think your point was really smart about that. When you do a deal, right, there's just so much kind of getting mixed together. So how do you define it in one lane or one vertical, right, to some extent?
No, exactly. And we should note also their track record, because you asked if it was profitable. Sixth Street has annualized returns of 20% over the last 10 years. So pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good.
Pretty good.
All right. Glad to team up with Katya Porchkansky on this story. She led the way. I was just there, chirping in and chipping in when it comes to
crossing the T's and dotting the I's, Katya, right? Is that kind of thing? Oh, don't forget to indent here.
Yeah, right, exactly. I think that's spelled Jasoon.
Jasoon.
All right, you're listening to Bloomberg Business Week.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Stocks remain sharply higher in the final hour as panic over the coronavirus outbreak fades. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 230, the S&P 500 up 37, the Nasdaq Composite up 139. Pfizer says its future looks good, but investors aren't too thrilled about the present, sending its stock down about 5%. Disappointing sales of its Lyrica pain medication and the arthritis treatment Xeljanz contributed to weak fourth quarter results. Nike says its online store has sold out of Kobe Bryant shoes and apparel following the NBA icon's death on Sunday. An earlier report said Nike had pulled the merchandise to thwart profiteers. The magnitude 7.7 earthquake between Cuba and Jamaica is being felt as far away as Miami's financial district. Workers were evacuating the Bank of America building and the Wells Fargo Center, among other Miami office buildings. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
Hope you enjoyed your meal. And I just want to say, he's lucky to have a brother like you.
Lucky? Caring for my brother is far from easy. But he's a part of me, like my arms and legs, so I'll be his. No time for tired. Nothing can disable this love. He needs me, but I'm the lucky one, even though I need help now and then.
If you're caring for a loved one, visit aarp.org/caregiving for care guides and community.
Support for your strength. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions. The market's in focus every...
Boredom. Fitness enemy number one. So don't just run. 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 Mix it up. Skip. Run. Skip. Run. Give yourself a lift. Mix it up. Lift. Mix it up. Run. Lift. Splash. Skip. Lift. Run. It's crunch time. Skip. Mix it up. Run. Mix it. Add a boxing class. Skip. Run. Splash. Skip. Run. Mix it up at Virgin Active and get stronger, fitter, faster. Join now for 12 months and pay nothing until March. T's and C's apply. Run. Mix it up. Skip. Mix it. Run. Mix it.
Whatever job you're searching for, you can find it on LinkedIn. First jobs, flexible jobs, keep me out the cold jobs, advertising jobs, accounting jobs, HR, PR, even ER jobs, East London jobs, West London jobs, extra hour in bed jobs, startup jobs, late start jobs, get home in the daylight jobs, banking jobs, building jobs, flexible working on a Friday jobs, or even voiceover jobs, which is how I ended up recording this ad. Search millions of jobs on LinkedIn and find one meant for you.
Keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded? Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre, so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn. TuneIn is your ticket to on-the-glass NHL action. With the NHL on TuneIn, listen to every one-timer, hear every stick save, and experience every goal for every team across the league.
Featuring home and away feeds for all 31 teams.
TuneIn brings the excitement of the NHL home to you all season long. Plus, with NHL On Demand, skate back in time and relive the best moments of the season while listening to past games in their entirety. Listen to the NHL on TuneIn.
Search NHL today.
TuneIn remembers the life, the success, the legacy of Kobe Bryant.
Buckle up for Kobe!
5-time NBA champion.
It was my dream to be a Los Angeles Laker.
The Lakers repeat back-to-back titles.
Devoted husband and proud father of 4 daughters.
I love having girls. They're awesome, man.
People are in disbelief that this global and cultural icon could be gone.
Search Remembering Kobe Bryant on TuneIn for podcasts and interviews of the legend, Kobe Bryant.
On this week's On the Media, fearing restrictive laws from the new Democratic majority in Virginia's capital, gun owners demonstrate and whisper about armed rebellion.
And they were using a different term, boogaloo, which is this semi-ironic online term for civil war, and talking about, like, does the boogaloo begin in Virginia?
Don't miss this week's On the Media from WNYC. Listen to the On the Media podcast from WNYC Studios on TuneIn today.
Cutting for the net, scores! On the goal line, Marshawn scores!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium. From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
You might already know that TuneIn allows you to listen to all the pro sports leagues wherever you go. But did you know TuneIn is also home to the wide world of college sports?
Open three, DeAndre Hunter got it! Handoff Carruthers, big hole right side. He leaps and he surges in, touchdown!
From live college football, basketball, and baseball games to podcasts and coaches shows fueling your love for the game in your school. And the best part is, it's all free. Search college sports to find your team or league.
Here's what's going on. We have got the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ. They're all higher. 28 minutes to go ahead of that closing bell here on the Tuesday, with the S&P up 39 right now, up 1.2%. The Dow up 253 points, up 0.9, and NASDAQ up 146 points, up by 1.6%. Just want to update you on a developing story. A powerful magnitude 7.7 earthquake struck in the Caribbean Sea between Jamaica and eastern Cuba today. Witnesses reported strong shaking. No immediate word of casualties or heavy damage, but that earthquake certainly felt in Miami. The 10-year down 10/30 seconds, yield now 1.64%. Well, the big story coming up in 28 minutes as those numbers break. Latest numbers out of Apple this quarter, not about the usual metrics involving iPhone sales and services. Investors will also be monitoring the conference call for anything the company executives have to say about China, specifically demand, or perhaps more importantly, the supply chain in China. Walter Piecyk is a partner with Lightshed Partners.
Tim Cook, when he was first selected as CEO, part of the whole reason for that was his ability to operate a good supply chain. So this is literally what he's known for.
Apple shares, they are pushing higher, up by 2.9%. After earnings, 3M down 5.4%, Pfizer down 5%, Harley-Davidson down 2.7%, United Technologies up 1.5%. We've got gold down 0.8% right now, 15.68 the ounce. West Texas Intermediate crude up 0.9%. Recapping, S&P higher by 39, up 1.2%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie, thanks so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week right here on Bloomberg Radio.
Okay, I so knew you were going to go there. Did you, by the way, watch the Grammys and see the tribute?
The tribute, yeah. That was cool.
To Prince. That was really
Ushers.
well done. He was great, man. Is that a no, Dave?
There you go. I mean, it was all right. You know,
what?
I was not a big fan of the Grammys.
Why?
It just didn't do it for me musically. I don't know. I guess I'm just getting old or something.
Aerosmith, Run DMC, a little throwback there.
You know, that was okay. I mean, but certainly it didn't hold the candle to the original recording in my mind.
Right. And you're not a big Billie Eilish fan?
I've kind of lost touch with a lot of current music. And
You are getting old, Dave.
It's true.
I will
What can I say?
all of the things went on and on and on. There was a point where I was like, okay, I'm ready for the next thing.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of with you on that.
Understood.
All right, so on and on we go. Let's talk about the chart of the day.
Well, it was a party like it's 1999 sort of atmosphere in Prince's song. And if you think back to what was happening in the stock market, that was sort of a party year. The problem was that right after that, we got the hangover of 2000 and 2001 and 2002. In the last couple of days with stocks kind of taking the hit they did, you saw some analysts sort of raising the possibility that where we are now is similar to where we were back in 1999. J.C. O'Hara, who's the chief market technician at MKM Partners, he didn't buy that argument. The way he sees it, and I'm quoting here from what he wrote, it's hard for us to see that outcome. And he cited a number of indicators, and the one that I focused on for the chart was a comparison between the S&P 500 equal weight index, so everybody counts the same, big, small, doesn't matter, relative to the original index, where market value determines how much weight you carry. So the bigger companies count more.
Right.
And so what I did was kind of go back, it's kind of arbitrary in a sense, but, you look since the start of 2016, the ratio between these two indicators down about 6% as of Monday. Compare that to a period, similar time frame, ending in early 1999. That drop was 23%. So in other words, bigger companies were much more dominant, smaller companies getting left much further behind. And when you put that all together, it adds up to where we are now
So
is
don't worry?
not, well, you can worry that the ratio is moving down, but it's nothing like what it did in the second half of the 90s. So don't worry so much. Don't, start making these comparisons to the beginning of the end of the bull market. That's what it comes down to. If you want to know more, folks, send me an email. I'll get you the chart, the explanation that goes with it, and everything I do going forward. The email address is dwilson@bloomberg.net. That's dwilson@bloomberg.net.
And meanwhile, U.S. indices holding their gains today. Nothing seems to be slowing this down. Even we get a couple headlines. You mentioned something, first of all, a potential earthquake off the coast
something
of
like an
Florida. But also some news potentially out of Europe about some new virus cases.
Yeah.
Germany,
I was watching on Twitter. I saw something like 3 cases in Germany. So, yeah.
Remember yesterday the story was that we hadn't seen a 1% loss in the S&P 500 since early October. Well, we haven't seen a 1% gain in the index since mid-October. So we've had this period of relatively low volatility, and so you would figure that, given the magnitude of the declines that we saw the past 2 days, the magnitude of any recovery would be sort of outsized by recent standards, at least, and that's what's playing out.
So, Dave, when you say that we haven't seen any 1% moves in either direction, up or down, since roughly the fall or so?
Mid-October, yeah.
Mid-October. I do wonder then, how do you take into account today's move more than 1% higher, yesterday's move more than 1% lower? Do you just kind of write it off as the virus-related news and say we're still in that kind of narrow range, lack of volatility? Do you write that off?
I don't know that you just write that off on the face of it, because, there are some strategists that will tell you they're anticipating more volatility this year. So the question becomes whether what we're seeing at this point is at all indicative of what may lie ahead for the year. I mean, there's a lot to get through, notably a presidential election. Let's start there.
Right.
Trade deals and you name it. So, the issues that have kind of whipped stocks around over time are still out there, and, they have the potential to kind of stir up some more volatility. It's just, the question is, whether we're really kind of getting away from what we saw through the fourth quarter, pretty much, where things settle down.
Right. All right. Dave Wilson, thank you so much. We'll see you in a little less than half an hour for your stock of the day. In the meantime, we're looking ahead to the close of trading, that green on the screen day. Dave Donabedian is going to be here with us. He's going to join us on the phone. Close out the market.
Yeah, stay at those best levels of the session. All right, back to world and national news headlines. Back to Bob Moon.
The president's defense rested its case today at the impeachment trial of Donald Trump. Cracks are showing among Republicans over whether the Senate should hear new witnesses and evidence. Some Republicans say they're leaning heavily toward calling at least one witness, since reports that an unpublished manuscript by former National Security Advisor John Bolton contradicts a key defense argument. He allegedly writes that Trump did indeed tie Ukrainian military aid to that country, promising to investigate top political rival Joe Biden. Senator Lindsey Graham suggested today it would suffice for senators to just read the manuscript in a classified setting. But Trump attorney Jay Sekulow argues it should be inadmissible.
Are you going to allow proceedings on impeachment to go from a New York Times report about someone that says what they hear is in a manuscript? Is that where we are? I don't think so. I hope not.
Unspoken there was the catch-22 that the White House would block Bolton's testimony by claiming executive privilege. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas says 1,000 no's to the Mideast peace plan unveiled today by President Donald Trump. The plan was drafted over the past 3 years by Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, who spoke to Bloomberg about today's announcement.
The biggest thing that we were able to do today is bring the Israeli government together to agree on different parameters to put a two-state solution option on the table for the Palestinians.
On the other hand, Palestinians call the plan strongly favoring Israel nonsense. The LA County Coroner's Office says all 9 bodies have now been recovered from the site where Kobe Bryant's helicopter crashed on Sunday. Global News 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. I'm Bob Moon.
Why has J.D. Power ranked Commonwealth Financial Network #1 in independent advisor satisfaction among financial investment firms for the 6th straight time? We think it comes down to one thing: you. Because it's your input and feedback that keeps us focused on what's most important to you and your clients and continually pushes us to be the best we can be. Maybe that's why we receive top marks in every category of the J.D. Power 2019 Advisor Satisfaction Survey. They named us number 1 in client support, number 1 in firm leadership, number 1 in operational support, number 1 in compensation, number 1 in professional development support, and number 1 in technology support. Ready to partner with the best? Call Commonwealth at 866-462-3638 or visit commonwealth.com and feel the power. Member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor. For 2019 J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
25 years ago, NJIT graduate Dick Sweeney co-founded Keurig Green Mountain, a company whose incredible innovations changed the way the world brews a cup of coffee. Today, he lectures widely on business leadership and is a strong advocate for NJIT's work to combine business education with the power of STEM.
NJIT is definitely fostering the innovative thinking for budding entrepreneurs simply because that's the world we live in. NJIT is producing students that have been trained, educated, and given the business acumen to be a contributor to a company. The distinct mission is to develop great STEM scholars. The attributes I've always looked for in team members are heart, smarts, guts, and luck. So we want people with passion, intelligence, courage, and never discount luck. The student coming out of NJIT has experienced all of that.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at njit.edu.
Are you interested in a challenging and exciting...
Boredom. Fitness enemy number 1. So don't just run. Run. Mix it up. Skip. Run. Skip. Run. Give yourself a lift. Mix it up. Lift. Mix it up. Run. Lift. Splash. Skip. Lift. Run. It's crunch time. Skip. Mix it up. Run. Mix it. Add a boxing class. Skip. Run. Splash. Skip. Run. Mix it up at Virgin Active and get stronger, fitter, faster. Join now for 12 months and pay nothing until March. T's and C's apply. Run. Mix it up. Skip. Mix it. Run. Mix it.
This is not a cat. This is not a rocket. And this is not a sale. That's right. At Smarty Mobile, we're not having a sale. While others are slashing prices, we're introducing our best ever new plans. Take our new 30-gig data SIM for just £10 a month. With unlimited calls and texts and no speed restrictions, credit checks or contract tying you down, why shop around? New plans, great value. Now that's Smarty. Grab yours today. Search Smarty Mobile. See smarty.co.uk for terms.
Keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded. Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre, so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
TuneIn remembers the life, the success, the legacy of Kobe Bryant.
Buckle up for Kobe!
5-time NBA champion.
It was my dream to be a Los Angeles Laker.
The Lakers repeat back-to-back titles.
Devoted husband and proud father of 4 daughters.
I love having girls. They're awesome, man.
People are in disbelief that this global and cultural icon could be gone.
Search Remembering Kobe Bryant on TuneIn for podcasts and interviews of the legend, Kobe Bryant.
Along the goal line, Martin scores! He takes it home!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo, he scores!
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
Gonna move, hit a shot, they score!
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
I think I just be myself, let it come naturally. I never try to, go outside the box.
Super Bowl 54, the biggest game of the year, is live on TuneIn Premium. Be there when the Kansas City Chiefs, dreaming of their first championship in 50 years, collide with the San Francisco 49ers' quest to bring a 6th Lombardi trophy to the Bay Area. Wherever you are when the ball kicks off Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, listen to every electric moment of Super Bowl 54 with the NFL on TuneIn Premium. Search Premium to upgrade today.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Like what you're listening to? Want to make getting back to it easier? Use the favorite button to keep track of the stations and podcasts you love on TuneIn. Just tap or click the heart icon to add it to your favorites. Then find all your go-to audio under the Favorites tab. Pretty easy, right?
24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. We've got 13 minutes to go ahead of the closing bell on this Tuesday with the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ. They're all higher right now with the S&P up 37 points, a gain of 1.1%. NASDAQ pushing higher by 140 points. That is a gain right now of just about 1.5%. The Dow holding on to a 234-point gain, up by 0.8%. Bottom line, stocks up the most since October on speculation that efforts to contain the coronavirus will prevent a major economic fallout. 10 years down 11.30 seconds. The yield 1.64%. Gold down 0.8%. 15.69 the ounce. West Texas Intermediate crude up 0.9%. 53.59 a barrel. We will be hearing from Apple after the closing bell ahead of its earnings report. Apple shares up now by 2.8%. Recapping, stocks higher, S&P up 37, a gain of 1.1%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
I'm driving in my car. I turn on the radio.
How about you let me drive?
Oh, no. Who's gonna drive you home?
Honey, please, I'll do the driving.
Drive on.
Excuse me, I want to drive.
Just drive, baby.
It's the question that drives us.
This is the Drive to the Close.
That funky music will drive us till the dawn.
On Bloomberg Radio.
It is time for the Drive to the Close. Dave Donabedian is with us, Chief Investment Officer at CIBC Private Wealth Management. $59 billion in assets under management, on the phone in Boston. Hey, Dave, nice to have you here with us. Interesting couple of days in terms of sell-off over the virus concerns, rally as we seem to focus more on earnings and some of the more positive fundamentals out there, and not so much on the virus. What's your thinking here about the trade so far?
Well, I think certainly we had coming into this week, a market that was probably ready for a pullback for whatever the reason, and the coronavirus provided that reason. But I guess what strikes me the most is when getting away from day to day, if you just look at, we're about to close the first month of the year, is how much it looks like last year. Even though we've had all sorts of kind of idiosyncratic news flow with the conflict with Iran and the coronavirus and obviously an impeachment trial, when you actually look at markets, it's the same old stuff. Stocks are outperforming bonds. U.S. stocks are outperforming international. Growth is outperforming value. Tech is the leading sector. Energy is the lagging sector. So lots of news flow, but it's really just a continuation of what we saw last year.
Well, Dave, and we were talking about this yesterday around this table, this notion of are people just looking for reasons to buy at this point? I mean, earnings seems to give people a lot of enthusiasm, even given what we're seeing globally with this virus. What's the mood of the market at this point?
Yeah, I think the mood of the market, maybe accepting for the kind of the knee-jerk reaction to the virus in the last few days, I think has turned from kind of a skeptical sentiment over the last couple months to one that feels a little bit more like there is no alternative kind of environment, that the equity market is relatively attractive compared to fixed income and cash as yields head lower, and that's providing a very strong bid, and the sort of consensus view is relatively optimistic on the year, of a bounce back in earnings, decent economic growth with low inflation and a friendly Fed.
And so, speaking of the friendly Fed, we're going to hear from Jay Powell and co. tomorrow. I feel like we hear a lot of nothing burger commentary around this first meeting, even though it is the first meeting, even though there are things going on in the world. What do you expect to hear from Chair Powell?
Well, I think you're right. I think never has less news been expected out of an FOMC meeting, and maybe that'll make it interesting because even a little bit of news will get attention. I don't expect any change in their view on where the economy is. I wouldn't call it a victory lap, but I think they will essentially endorse their prior view that they feel like they have the luxury of being able to sort of stand pat. It'll be interesting if they make any reference to the coronavirus. I would bet that they don't. So I don't think there'll be any news on rates. I think it's early for them to really talk about balance sheet policy. I think that'll come later in the year. It'd be interesting for bond market technicians if they get into any repo market issues. That might be one thing to look at. But on the core FOMC monetary policy issues, I really have a hard time coming up with a new angle or twist they're going to give us.
Dave, I want to ask you because, Jason and I kind of kid each other that sometimes, these when we talk macro things, it's kind of the same old stuff over and over again. And I do wonder, though, when you get together with your team every morning, and check on what's going on in the world, what are the macro issues that seem to be most important, that really, really that are on everybody's mind at this point? Because we could talk Fed, we could talk trade, we could talk, These things come over and over again. And I really feel like the markets have got to some extent kind of used to it and immune to some of it. But what are the things that really would make a difference here on the investment environment?
Well, I would say generally speaking, it's when the consensus you talk about proves to be wrong. And so that's a lot of what we do. The perception is that at least for the foreseeable future, trade tensions are on the back burner. You could come up with some scenarios why that might not actually be the case. We're just talking about how everyone is so sure they kind of know that there's not going to be anything meaningful coming out of the Fed. What are the possibilities there? But probably the biggest one, in terms of the thing that everybody's sure of, is that inflation is going to stay low and that the Fed's not going to have to raise interest rates for a long, long time. That's sure what it looks like, but we are kind of always testing that consensus, because if that proves to be wrong, that's a game changer.
And Dave, politics, is that a potential black swan here, or how predictable is it?
It's entirely unpredictable. Yeah. The thing there, back to the point about the consensus, though, that is interesting, maybe a little bit concerning, is that within the investment community, there seems to be overwhelming expectations that President Trump will be reelected. I think tying it to strength of the economy and so forth. So that's one of those consensus views that even though the polls say something different, if that's what the typical, asset allocator or portfolio manager is thinking, you could make a strong case that President Trump is not a shoo-in for re-election by any stretch of the imagination.
Do you agree his policies have made a difference, or is it just this continuation of a low-rate environment that continues to push people into yield and also make money pretty cheap to do other things?
I think at a macro level, policies have made some difference. I think certainly very directly, obviously, the cut in corporate tax rates. Some of the deregulatory activity has been helpful to some industries, although, the energy and financial sectors haven't exactly knocked the cover off the ball, performance-wise during the Trump presidency, even though was regulatory relief. But so there are some policy issues there that have been beneficial to the market.
All right. Dave Donabedian, Chief Investment Officer for CIBC Private Wealth Management, looking after about $59 billion. He joined us on the phone from Boston. Well, coming up, we're going to get you to the actual close of trading. Everything is up. The Dow up about 0.8%, dragged down. Feels like by some of those bigger names like 3M, I believe, is dragging there. But the S&P up more than 1%, which, as Dave Wilson pointed out, would be the first time, I believe he said, a 1% gain, 1+% gain since mid-October, especially after we saw a couple more than 1% drops in the last couple days over those virus concerns.
Risk trade back on. And
what
a contrast from yesterday. Yeah, the NASDAQ, the outperformer on a percentage basis. So it's up 1.5%, continuing to be the momentum of some of those big tech names that have fueled the rally over the last couple of years.
We're going to do movers and shakers, and after that, TD Jakes is going to be here with us. Really looking forward to talking to him about solving some of the big problems out there in the world. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Jason Kelly, Carol Masser. Stick with us. The close is coming up.
Bloomberg Daybreak Asia.
How should investors be positioning?
We go there.
Let's talk about export numbers because they've been quite shocking. Korea, we saw Singapore, Japan too.
Tonight at 6 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
This is a Bloomberg Pursuits look at luxury. For many New Yorkers, the rent is still too high. But New York's new law, which limits rent increases on roughly 1 million units, has scared potential apartment building buyers away. New numbers from Ariel Property Advisors finds a 36% drop in multifamily housing deals from 2018 to 2019 and a 40% drop in the collective value of those deals. Baby Shark, the viral earworm and de facto anthem for the Washington Nationals during the team's World Series run last year, gave its producer, Kim Min-seok, a fortune of about $125 million.
Boredom, fitness enemy number one. So don't just run. Run, run. Mix it up, skip, run, skip, run. Give yourself a lift. Mix it up, lift. Mix it up, run, lift, splash, skip, lift, run. It's crunch time. Skip, mix it up, run, mix it out of boxing class. Skip, run, splash, skip, run. Mix it up at Virgin Active and get stronger, fitter, faster. Join now for 12 months and pay nothing until March. T's and C's apply. Run, mix it up, skip, mix it, run.
Mix it. I spy with my little eye something beginning with P.
People.
No, parrot.
I'll have to remember my binoculars next time.
Although you might not be able to see it, your small actions can have a real impact with Shell. Every time you fill up and use Shell Go Plus, you'll be protecting and replanting forests around the world. Make the change. Drive carbon neutral. Shell. Go well. See goplus.shell.com/CO2 for details.
Hey, have you heard? The Mayor of London has launched his latest van scrappage scheme to help tackle London's toxic air. Small businesses or sole traders like me with a polluting van could now get £7,000, which you could use to trade up to a Euro 6 vehicle. And you could get an extra £2,500 towards running costs if you go electric. The scheme is now even easier to qualify for, and it's open to any businesses with up to 50 employees, like mine. So, I'm going to search TfL Scrappage to see if I'm eligible and apply. You should do the same. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
At Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. The Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ, all moving higher. Folks from big brothers and big sisters of New York ringing that closing bell as we await the latest numbers out of Apple. S&P at the close up 32, a gain of 1%, ending the Tuesday session at 32.76. The Dow up 0.6% today, up 189 points at 28,725. NASDAQ up 1.4% today, gaining 130 points. 10-year down, I should say. The 10-year down 11 seconds. The yield there 1.64%. So stocks move the most higher since October on speculation that efforts to contain the coronavirus will prevent a major economic fallout. As for the overall mood of the market, Dave Donabedian is Chief Investment Officer at CIBC Private Wealth Management. He was our guest moments ago right here on Bloomberg Business Week.
Yeah, I think the mood of the market, maybe accepting for the kind of the knee-jerk reaction to the virus in the last few days, I think has turned from kind of a skeptical sentiment over the last couple months to one that feels a little bit more like a, there is no alternative kind of environment.
Well, as we await the latest numbers out of Apple, due out at 4:30 p.m. Wall Street time, we've got Apple shares up today by 2.8%. Our John Butler will be breaking apart those numbers as soon as they become available. Keep it locked into Bloomberg Radio for the latest on Apple. The 10-year, as I mentioned, down 11.30 seconds, yield 1.64%. Gold down 0.9%, 15.68 the ounce. West Texas Intermediate crude up 0.8%, 53.58 a barrel. After earnings today, United Technologies, ticker UTX, up by 1.2%. 3M, tough day there, down 5.7%. Harley-Davidson, lower by 3%. And Pfizer shares down by 5.1%. Well, again, Apple, the big stock we're waiting for, 4:30 p.m. Wall Street time, also waiting for the latest numbers out of Starbucks. Recapping, stocks higher, S&P up by 1%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Whoa, yeah, what I say.
Your next move will be your last.
Nobody move a muscle.
Damn, Stiffy, you got some moves.
And I'm moving from town to town.
Time is money. Let's go. Come on, move it.
Shake it up. Shake it up.
Bloomberg Business Week, Movers and Shakers with Carol Masser and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
Yes, indeed. Time to take a look at some of the stocks on the move in the Tuesday trade. We're waiting, as Charlie just mentioned, those Apple earnings coming your way at about 4:30 p.m. market time. So we'll look for that to cross and get immediate reaction. S&P 500, most names in the index today higher. So a broad-based rally, 414 names showing gains in today's session in the S&P 500. 85 lower, Jason, 6 unchanged. What do you got?
You know, I've been looking at a whole host of things. Obviously, we're keeping a quick or a close look, a close eye. What am I trying to say? On
Stupid
Apple.
words.
Apple.
Stupid
We've been talking a lot about it. And, you know, a lot of enthusiasm heading into this report. The stock was up 2.8% today during the regular trade. So I think we'll see those results in about a half hour or so.
Up 8.2% already this year.
Yeah, all eyes there. I mean, it was an unbelievable performer, the best FANG stock, as Gene Munster predicted to us about this time last year. It was the best performer in 2019 among the FANGs.
All right, that's good for Apple. We'll wait for those earnings. Let's talk about 3M, though. That
Not
stock
good for them.
it's your number 2 decliner in the S&P 500, so down 5.7%, dropping the most in 9 months, revealing it had received a grand jury subpoena in an environmental probe, saying it would cut 1,500 jobs amid slumping markets from car parts to electronics. Remember, this is a company that's got its hands in a lot of different things.
Post-it notes.
And right. Well,
Scotch tape.
Love my Post-it notes, right?
Balloon dressings, yeah.
You know that.
I think Post-it notes is a very, very strong line item for them based purely on your usage.
At home
anyone
and
could
at
see
work.
their computer, I can only imagine what your refrigerator looks like.
Actually, John
you
will
just
be like,
put them
my
on your
husband's
husband
like,
and
all right,
daughter.
get them off the fridge.
Yeah.
I get it. We need milk.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is, so their model, I think, for a long time, right? Because they played into so many different markets, diversified, could tell you a lot of stuff, but obviously that wasn't the case. They have been doing a restructuring. It's going to affect all business groups, functions, and geographies. So sometimes being too diversified gets you into trouble, perhaps. Anyway, down 5.7%.
Yeah, exactly. Other things that we are taking a look at, I'm just looking at my screen here. Xerox doing well today.
Yeah.
I believe, of course, this is a company, an old school name that's been in a little bit of play over the last couple of years, and that stock up almost 5%, call it 5% today, after some earnings that came out this morning. Adjusted EPS, the forecast beating estimates, and Xerox saying it's still pressing ahead with pursuit of HP. Yes?
There it is, despite HP saying thanks but no thanks.
Yes, exactly.
Starbucks out with their earnings, just crossing.
I thought you said there it is. What? There's what? Oh,
well,
Starbucks.
there is. There's Starbucks. First quarter comp sales up 6%. That is a beat, folks. The street was looking for a gain of 4.6%. First quarter adjusted EPS, 79 cents a share, 3 pennies better than what the street was forecasting. And the stock,
it's up
2.7%.
Yeah.
3.3% now.
It's
after
climbing big time. And, interesting because Starbucks is one of these names. It'll be fascinating to hear what they say on their call, because the sort of name that would be affected because of their footprint in China, I believe. There have been some store closures there.
Yeah.
Right? What are you're pointing at me?
It's interesting. The virus. They're saying fiscal year 2020 guidance is unchanged, excludes the coronavirus.
See? Called it. What? I'm just saying that it's something that people are going to be worried about, and I'm guessing they're going to get some questions. Yeah. We'll say the stock is pairing some of those gains. It's now only up about half of 1%. So we'll see what they
what? Oh, wait, they're talking virus.
Yeah.
And here we are saying, okay, wait, everybody's saying it's too soon, let's wait.
Right.
It's on the mind of CEOs.
So here we go. We'll see what happens with them. Let's check on volatility. It's been quite a week so far, and it's only Tuesday. Volatility down after being up 25% yesterday, down about 10.5% today, closing at 16.32. This is Bloomberg. All right, Dave, you're up.
Hi, my name is Dave.
Wilson, where are you? Wilson!
Just what do you think you're doing, Dave?
We're going for a price on Wilson.
Open up the door, it's Dave. Who? Dave.
Hey, Mr. Wilson. Dave Wilson back in our Interactive Broker studio. Stock of the day is Brown & Brown. Who is Brown & Brown?
Well, that's a good question. And they are an insurance broker, all kinds of policies. And I'll tell you, it's a much bigger company than what I usually feature as stock of the day. I mean, they tend to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars in market value. Brown & Brown's at $12.5 billion. In fact, it's one of the 5 largest companies by market value in the S&P Mid-Cap 400 Index. So who knows? Maybe the stock will be in the S&P 500 sometime soon, and more people will get to know Brown & Brown. The company was founded in 1939 and went public in 1973. The ticker is BRO. Now, the shares have risen more than 5-fold from the low in 2011 and have been setting records since 2016. Today brought another record thanks to well-received results for the fourth quarter. Revenue beat analyst average estimate in a Bloomberg survey for the 9th quarter in a row. Earnings also surpassed projections. And Brown & Brown said on a conference call that insurance premiums are on, quote, an upward trend for most lines of business and are likely to keep rising in this year's first half. That prospect helped send the shares higher. They climbed 7.2%. That was the biggest gain for the stock since October 2011.
You think anybody's approached them about trying to take their ticker?
Oh, who knows?
Bro. So many people out there would love to have that stock symbol. Come on, here in 2020.
Brown, can you just, I don't know, go...
Just do like BRB. Anyway, no, BRB, people would like that for Be Right Back. Anyway, Dave Wilson, thank you so much. Should we call sort of the size of companies that you usually talk about like Wilson caps or something? Should we brand that?
Well, aren't they
There's
called
no
small
need.
caps?
Generally, they are. The occasional mid-cap. This is at the high end of the mid-caps.
So,
nonetheless.
It's a whole melange. We call them Wilson
Dave,
caps.
we just let Jason make up things and let him play in his little world.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah.
Okay.
Dave's familiar. All right,
familiar.
Let's get over to Bob Moon now. He's got World National Headlines. Hey, Bob.
Jason, wrapping up their impeachment defense before the Senate today, President Trump's lawyers urged lawmakers to ignore reports that a leaked manuscript from former National Security Advisor John Bolton contradicts one of their key arguments. Bolton reportedly writes that Trump did tie Ukraine military aid to a promise to investigate rival Joe Biden. Attorney Jay Sekulow argued that kind of hearsay should not be admissible.
It is not a game of leaks and unsourced manuscripts. That's politics, unfortunately, and Hamilton put impeachment in the hands of this body.
Now the defense has rested. Senators must decide on whether to hear new testimony, although the White House has indicated Trump would invoke executive privilege to block Bolton and other witnesses from testifying. U.S. health officials are expanding their checks of international travelers for signs of that worrisome new virus from China. As a precaution, the U.S. is beefing up its checks to encompass 20 entry points. White House advisor Jared Kushner tells Bloomberg Television President Trump is getting regular briefings.
In the U.S. government, we have so many tremendous resources and incredible people, and the president's been meeting with them constantly. He's reached out to China to offer any support they may need. They're being very transparent so far, we believe, in terms of the information they've been sharing with us. And the hope is that we'll continue to work the problem, and hopefully it will get under control.
Federal health officials say there's no sign the virus has spread beyond the 5 confirmed U.S. cases. President Trump unveiled a long-awaited Mideast peace plan today. It strongly favors Israel, and Palestinian leaders quickly denounced it as nonsense. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. I'm Bob Moon.
Financial leaders enjoy talking with Tom Keene and Jonathan Farrell.
What was it like having the giant darken the door every once in a while?
Experts appreciate it when what they have to say is understood.
Do you think that we might have seen a cyclical peak in the labour market?
It's the same reason we're recommending Bloomberg Surveillance to you.
Everything you thought would happen is happening.
Weekday mornings at 7 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions.
You know your body, and you know when something's off, when something doesn't feel quite right. Don't ignore symptoms like fatigue, joint pain, rashes, and fever. They could be signs of lupus. Listen to your body. Take care of yourself. We're here to help you take control of your health. Learn how at BeFierceTakeControl.org. Brought to you by the Lupus Foundation of America and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
What if you...
Boredom. Fitness enemy number one. So don't just run. 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 Mix it up. Skip. Run. Skip. Run. Give yourself a lift. Mix it up. Lift. Mix it up. Run. Lift. Splash. Skip. Lift. Run. It's crunch time. Skip. Mix it up. Run. Mix it out of boxing class. Skip. Run. Splash. Skip. Run. Mix it up at Virgin Active and get stronger, fitter, faster. Join now for 12 months and pay nothing until March. T's and C's apply. Run. Mix it up. Skip. Mix it. Run. Mix it.
Hey, have you heard? The Mayor of London has launched his latest van scrappage scheme to help tackle London's toxic air. Small businesses or sole traders like me with a polluting van could now get £7,000, which you could use to trade up to a Euro 6 vehicle. And you could get an extra £2,500 towards running costs if you go electric. The scheme is now even easier to qualify for, and it's open to any businesses with up to 50 employees, like mine. So, I'm going to search TfL scrappage to see if I'm eligible and apply. You should do the same. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Start hearing more of what you want. Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations, live commercial-free news, and every live NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL game. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Like what you're listening to? Want to make getting back to it easier? Use the favorite button to keep track of the stations and podcasts you love on TuneIn. Just tap or click the heart icon to add it to your favorites. Then find all your go-to audio under the Favorites tab. Pretty easy, right?
TuneIn remembers the life, the success, the legacy of Kobe Bryant. Buckle up for Kobe! Five-time NBA champion.
It was my dream to be a Los Angeles Laker.
The Lakers repeat back-to-back titles. Devoted husband and proud father of 4 daughters.
I love having girls. They're awesome, man.
People are in disbelief that this global and cultural icon could be gone.
Search Remembering Kobe Bryant on TuneIn for podcasts and interviews of the legend, Kobe Bryant.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net.
Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow and TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Along the goal line, Martin scores! It takes it home!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo, he scores!
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
Gonna move, hit a shot, they score!
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown to Keenan.
Search NFL today.
A day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet, all about earnings after hours. Just hearing from AMD, shares now lower after its report, down by about 3%. Starbucks reported quarterly sales that topped estimates. Customer traffic gained in its key markets of the U.S. and China. Right now, we have got Starbucks shares. They are up by just about 0.5%. Coffee Giant also reporting it closed more than half its locations in mainland China amid that viral outbreak. The Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all higher today. By the way, we are awaiting the latest numbers out of Apple. We'll have those for you 4:30 Wall Street time. S&P up 32, up 1%. The Dow up 187, up 0.7. NASDAQ up today by 143 points. And the 10-year down 12/32, yield 1.64%. Gold lower today by 0.9%, 15.68 the ounce. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie, thank you so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week on Bloomberg Radio, also streaming live on YouTube. I've been so psyched about this conversation.
You've been talking about it all day.
I have to say, I've been talking a bunch about it to everyone in the newsroom because it's rare that you get to interact with a true sort of multi-hyphenate in a lot of ways. And our next guest, Shirley, is that. TD Jakes is the chairman of the TD Jakes Foundation. We're going to talk a lot about that. But he is, by all accounts, sort of a mastermind, a pastor. He's got his hands in so many different pies. Really great to have you here with us in New York City.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure. Thank you both.
All right. So tell us about the foundation, because you are going after what I think is one of the most pressing issues of our day, which is sort of filling that gap between people who need to hire folks and folks who want jobs. It doesn't get much more complicated or simple than that.
You know, it's a very important issue, particularly with the disenfranchised. Whether you're talking about black, brown, or female, they're underrepresented, particularly in STEM programs, technological programs. The divide is so wide, and the technology is moving so rapidly that though we are at 8% unemployment right now, we're scheduled to be at 20% if we don't close that divide with technology, science, technology, engineering, and math. We added another component to it from STEM to STEAM because the stats say that when you add the arts, you are far more apt to get more people involved, and it's kind of a gateway into studying technology.
It's all that left-right brain. You need it all, right? I think to be really successful. Why are we still struggling with this, Bishop Jakes? Because I feel like we know there's a problem about access and equality for everyone in terms of an education, especially for the STEM or STEAM field. Why is it still a problem? Because the awareness, we get it. We know there's a problem. Schools are working on scholarships, but it still is a problem.
The arts have been underfunded in school. That's one of the problems that we have to face. The other problem is in no part of our lives have we caught up with technology, which is moving so rapidly. Our laws have not caught up with technology. So that's a real problem. And then when you start thinking about our laws not catching up. Our job searches have not caught up with them, and into the culture and the fabric of people outside of Silicon Valley and pockets of technology. There's an indifference to the subject as if it's an optional issue, when in fact it is not optional at all, and people who don't get in are going to be left behind in a way that I think is going to be tragic, and it's going to be detrimental to the country.
And so how do you make that case to business leaders? Because as we've seen with something like climate change, business leaders only really engage when they feel like there's an existential threat. Are they sensing that at this point? How do you make the case to those leaders? You know a lot of them.
Yes, I know a lot of them, and a lot of companies today are focusing on diversity and inclusion, and so it's not a hard case to make to them that there is a need to do that, and in many instances the criteria requires that in order to do business, that your boards and that your company be more diversified than ever before. However, there's still a great divide when it comes to how do I get in touch with the people. Great programs are out there, but the people who need to know about the programs don't hear the information.
Interesting.
So just because you put something in the Wall Street Journal doesn't mean that it reached the underserved communities. And so we want to be a liaison and a bridge to help facilitate accessing those talents that do exist and cultivating those that do not.
And so how do you get that message out? What's the mechanism that you have to get it there?
About 30,000 members in my church and almost 30 million people on my social media database creates my own media hub within itself.
That's a pretty substantial.
I just want to say, stop right there, because Jason and I are just struggling with a few thousand people.
Yeah, exactly.
So we just, later on, we're going to talk and you're going to help
We're going to get your strategy on that.
But that's a great platform. And I just want to say something. You talked about diversity and inclusion. Someone said to me, diversity is getting an invitation to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance.
That's right.
And I thought that is such a telling thing. It's not just about being brought in, but you've got to be asked to do a significant role, right? It's got to be deeper.
And in this case, you may be prepared to do mentoring programs to teach me how to dance.
Right.
Because a lot of people are underqualified for these positions. And we have to rethink how we educate, how we implement, how we mentor, how we develop, if inclusion is really the goal that we have. And I hope that it is, because we have right now today 700,000 jobs that are available right now in tech industry that we don't have anybody to fill. And when you look at that and you understand that we have 23% of African Americans are living below the poverty line, then that's an opportunity. It's either a disaster or an opportunity.
So here we are in a political year. Are politicians listening? Because is that
they all talk about jobs.
Is that pool of workers better off today than they were 3 years ago?
I used to think like that. I used to think that it was about the politicians, but I am totally convinced that it is not about the politicians totally. I think they need to have a seat at the table. 4 different entities need to have a seat at the table, especially for the African American community. Faith leaders need to be included at the table because we are the gateway to the community. And most CEOs don't understand that. They are so afraid of faith because they're in the mainstream world. They don't understand that the church is the hub to our community. The politicians do. Because anytime they want to get elected, they show right up.
They're showing up a lot on Sundays.
They show right up on Sunday. Just happen to be in the neighborhood. But the CEOs are just coming into an awareness that we can be an asset and a facilitator, that we can market their jobs, that we can do things. That
Are they working? We just got about 30 seconds. Are they reaching out to you and say, let's fix this?
I'm seeing some progress in that regard. Our Texas Offenders Reentry Initiative had taken 23,000 formerly incarcerated and worked them through the system. And we've been partnering with companies like AT&T, sat down with Randall Stevenson. He gets it. Several others are starting to get it. We just want to be a bridge between those who have the need and those who have the opportunity.
We are just delighted you stopped by to see us, Bishop Jakes, and really look forward to spending more time with you and understanding and figuring out how this initiative goes. TD Jakes, chairman of the TD Jakes Foundation, as I said, so much more than that. A multi-hyphenate, one of the most influential voices, certainly, across the country. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Coming up, we're going to take you inside Apple. This is Bloomberg.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Stocks finished modestly higher after a late pullback erased some of the market's advance. Investors began to shake off some of their fears surrounding the coronavirus outbreak. The Dow Jones Industrial Average climbed 187. The S&P 500 rose 33. The Nasdaq Composite gained 130. 3M is ramping up production of face masks amid the coronavirus outbreak. It is the latest corporate response to the virus spread. Other companies are closing China offices, telling employees in China to work from home, and limiting travel. Last year's data breach at Wawa is looking more serious. The fraud intelligence company Gemini Advisory says credit and debit card information from the breach is being sold online. J.Crew has a new CEO as it looks to revitalize its brand and reverse a long sales slump. Sources say it has hired former Victoria's Secret executive Jan Singer for the post, ending a year-long search. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
Right now, Doctors Without Borders medical teams are operating in some of the most remote and dangerous corners of the world. When front yards become front lines, at the crossroads of conflict and epidemic, where there are no hospitals, that's where we operate. Your response is critical to our response in places where few others will go. That's where we operate. Learn more at doctorswithoutborders.org.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions. The Bloomberg.
Boredom, fitness enemy number one. So don't just run. Run, run, mix it up, skip, run, skip, run. Give yourself a lift, mix it up, lift, mix it up, run, lift, splash, skip, lift, run. It's crunch time, skip, mix it up, run, mix it out of boxing class, skip, run, splash, skip, run. Mix it up at Virgin Active and get stronger, fitter, faster. Join now for 12 months and pay nothing until March. T's and C's apply. Run. Mix it up. Mix it. Run. Mix it.
Want to know a quick, easy way to see if your favorite podcasts have a new episode available? Just go to the home screen on your TuneIn app and see the latest editions under the Your New Episode section. Happy listening.
I think I just be myself, let it come naturally. I never try to, go outside the box.
Super Bowl 54, the biggest game of the year, is live on TuneIn Premium. Be there when the Kansas City Chiefs, dreaming of their first championship in 50 years, collide with the San Francisco 49ers' quest to bring a sixth Lombardi trophy to the Bay Area. Wherever you are when the ball kicks off Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, listen to every electric moment of Super Bowl 54 with the NFL on TuneIn Premium. Search Premium to upgrade today.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
You might already know that TuneIn allows you to listen to all the pro sports leagues wherever you go. But did you know TuneIn is also home to the wide world of college sports?
Open three, DeAndre Hunter got it! Handoff Carruthers, big hole right side. He leaps and he surges in. Touchdown.
From live college football, basketball, and baseball games to podcasts and coaches shows fueling your love for the game in your school. And the best part is, it's all free. Search college sports to find your team or league.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
Go courtside with the NBA on TuneIn. With the NBA on TuneIn, hear your favorite team and players take on their biggest rivals during the biggest games throughout the year, including regular season showdowns, the 2020 All-Star Game, and the NBA Finals in June, featuring the home and away calls for all 30 teams. Plus, with the NBA on demand, relive the best moments of the season by listening to the past games in their entirety. Listen to the NBA all season long on TuneIn. TuneIn remembers the life, the success, the legacy of Kobe Bryant.
Buckle up for Kobe!
5-time NBA champion.
It was my dream to be a Los Angeles Laker.
The Lakers repeat back-to-back titles.
Devoted husband and proud father of 4 daughters.
I love having girls. They're awesome, man.
People are in disbelief that this global and cultural icon could be gone.
Search Remembering Kobe Bryant on TuneIn for podcasts and interviews of the legend, Kobe Bryant.
The Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
All right, so right now, Jason and I are just looking at those Apple headlines crossing. The big one, see second quarter revenue. They are raising their outlook for revenues in the second quarter. Stock right now up about 2.5%. Lots of headlines. We're going to go through them with our own John Butler in just a moment. In the meantime, back to Charlie Pellet with a check on some of those top stores, including Apple.
Indeed, Apple after the bell. Let's begin right there. First quarter EPS $4.99. Estimates for $4.56. It does see second quarter revenue in the range of $63 to $67 billion. Estimates $62.33 billion. As Carol mentioned, we will have more with our John Butler coming up in just a moment. Also after the bell, AMD forecast revenue for the first quarter in the guidance 3.7% below the average analyst estimate. And also Starbucks after the bell. Starbucks shares did move lower after its report. Starbucks had been down by just about 0.5%. It did say that quarterly sales topped estimates. Customer traffic gained in its key markets of the U.S. and China, but it is keeping an eye on developments in China. Again, Apple gaining. Second quarter forecast did top estimates. It was an update with the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ. S&P up 32, up by 1%. The Dow up 187, up 0.7. NASDAQ rallied 1.4%. Gold down 0.9%. Crude oil up today by 1.1%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Thank you so much, Charlie. Let's move right into our Apple conversation with John Butler from Bloomberg Intelligence. He's been breaking it down with us, feverishly looking at his Bloomberg terminal. He's got all his models. He's got it all. What jumped out to you, John? Because investors seem to be pretty happy with this so far.
That's the right question, Jason. And it really was two things here. So